scale rapid test. We are investing $2 billion to produce hundreds of millions of additional tests. This gives the manufacturers the the confidence to increase their capacity. And we're actually on track now to double the number of rapid tests in the market over the next 60 days. We've also worked with top retailers, Walmart, Amazon, and Kroger, who have all agreed to sell these at-home tests at their costs, which will make them more affordable. Overall, we'll continue to pull every lever we can to further expand the manufacturing and the production of these tests in order to make them more widely available and to drive down the cost per test. And we certainly encourage all Americans to get vaccinated, and when they need to get tested. Dr. Walensky?
Yeah, thank you for that question, Sabrina. So right now, all but a handful of states in this country remain in the red area, high levels of transmission, over 100 per 100,000 cases over 7 days. The Title 42 is a public health order. Decreasing the amount of crowding certainly will be one strategy to decrease the amount of transmission related to COVID-19. We are reevaluating the Title 42 order as a public health order. We do so every 60 days, and we will continue to reevaluate that. And in the meantime, CDC is providing technical assistance at border areas to ensure and work towards decreasing public health and COVID transmission in these areas. Thank you.
Next question.
Zeke Miller, AP.
Thanks for doing this again. I was hoping you might explain a little bit why you think cases and hospitalizations right now are coming down. Does it say something about, what does that say about the rest of the fall and the winter? And then more broadly, there's been a number of surveys that have come out of showing that fully vaccinated people are still significantly altering their lives, fearing that they may get the virus. For all the doctors, should people who are fully vaccinated continue to, harbor doubts about the efficacy of the vaccines, change their lives? Should they cancel? Should they continue to postpone travel and stop and not dining indoors and things like that, or should they start getting back to normal?
Okay, so let's go to the first question. Over to you, Dr. Walensky, and then if you have anything to add, Dr. Fauci.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've seen this with all of our surges as they peak and then they come down. I think we're watching this very carefully, and we really understand that the impact of Delta might be a little bit different. But one of the things I think that's critically important now is as these cases come down, the most important thing that we can do is to continue to practice the mitigation strategies that we know work. Of course, that's masking, hand washing, distancing, ventilation, but critically important, it's vaccination. So I think the future of where we go with this pandemic with Delta and other potential variants really lies within our ability to get this country vaccinated, and in the meantime, to double down on the prevention strategies that work.
Dr. Fauci, anything to add there?
Yeah, one point that I think is important to make is I think that the people who are unvaccinated, when they see the curves starting to come down, that is not a reason to remain unvaccinated, because if you want to ensure that we get down to a very low level and that we don't resurge again, we still got to get a very large proportion of those 70 million people who are eligible to be vaccinated who have not been vaccinated. We've got to get them vaccinated. So it's good news that we're starting to see a turning around of the curve and coming down. That is not an excuse to walk away from the issue of needing to get vaccinated.
Second question on fully vaccinated people. Dr. Murphy, do you want to respond there?
Sure, thanks, Jeff. And Zeke, thanks for the question. So I think a couple of important points to make here. Number one is, if people are fully vaccinated, it's really important they know that they have a high degree of protection against the worst outcomes of COVID, against hospitalization, severe disease, and death. The bottom line is the vaccine saves lives and keeps people out of the hospital. And that's actually one of the reasons why many people who are fully vaccinated feel more comfortable actually going and visiting relatives and getting back to some of their day-to-day activities that they enjoyed pre-pandemic. There are some people, though, especially in the face of the Delta variant, who recognize that even though they may be okay, they want to take extra precautions to avoid transmitting to people at home who may be unvaccinated. Maybe they've got elderly relatives at home who are immunocompromised. Maybe they've got kids who are under 12 who are unvaccinated. And some of them are taking some extra precautions, which is reasonable. But in no way, shape, or form should this take away from the fact that the vaccines are highly effective and they do dramatically reduce your risk. One last thing I'll just mention here is around boosters. Given how effective vaccines have been, we want to extend that protection that people have enjoyed from the vaccines. And so the booster program is actually going to help us do that, particularly with our higher risk population. It's why the FDA and CDC made their recommendations last week on boosters for those above 65 with other illnesses and who are at higher risk of exposure to the virus. But make no mistake, our lives are fundamentally better because of the vaccines. The more people who get vaccinated, the quicker we'll be able to return back to normal.
Thank you. Next question, please.
Let's go to Arlette at CNN.
Hi there. I wanted to see if you could react to this news from Merck about their antiviral pill that cuts the risk of death and hospitalization by COVID in half. I know that this will have to go through the FDA process, but do you guys have an estimated timeline for when you hope this will be approved? And then I know that you've also already reached an agreement for 1.7 million courses of this medicine, but are there plans to buy more? And how exactly would these be distributed out to the states?
Dr. Fauci, for the first part of the question.
Yeah, for the first part of the question, the news of the efficacy of this particular antiviral is obviously very good news. The company, when they briefed us last night, had mentioned that they will be submitting their data to the FDA imminently. The data are impressive. There was a 50% diminution. Of importance is that in the placebo group, there were 8 deaths, and in the treatment group, there were no deaths. That's also very important and very good news. We always hesitate to make any timelines. The FDA will look at the data and in their usual very efficient and effective way, will examine the data as quickly as they possibly can, and then it will be taken from there, because once a recommendation is made, then we go through the same process of getting the recommendation for its usage through the CDC. Thank you.
So that's the second part of the question. If indeed it is authorized, as Dr. Fauci just described the process, the federal government has contracted to purchase 1.7 million doses to make this therapy available. The government also has an option for some additional doses. If approved, I think the right way to think about this is a potential additional tool in our toolbox to protect people from the worst outcomes of COVID. But I think it's really important to remember that vaccination, as we've talked about today, remains far and away our best tool against COVID-19. It can prevent you from getting COVID in the first place. And we want to prevent infections, not just wait to treat them once they happen. Why don't we take one more question?
Last question. Let's go to Sasha Pesnick at ABC News.
Hey, guys. Thank you for taking my question. On testing, the administration has pledged millions towards billions, frankly, towards shoring up our testing infrastructure. It's been a core part of pulling us out of the pandemic, but we've seen them fly off of shelves. We're now seeing pharmacies rationing how many tests a person can buy. We're seeing delays in scheduling rapid test appointments. So can you help us understand what's going wrong here? Why countries like Germany have been able to flood their market with cheap tests and the US has not been able to?
Yeah, so I think it's important to, again, emphasize that overall testing capacity across the country remains robust. You're right that the at-home rapid test is under a lot of demand. As I said, the manufacturing is scaling up significantly, doubling across the next couple of months. And we're just going to keep at it to encourage those manufacturers to increase capacity and to drive down the cost of those tests. So we will continue to pull every lever we can to increase the convenience of rapid at-home testing. Thank you for today. I hope everybody has a good weekend, and I look forward to next week's briefing.